Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dulya Gunathilaka from the Slit School of Architecture. So welcome you all to the second episode of the discussion forum, which is organized by the Sri Lanka Institute of Architects. So Dr. Prathap Kulathanthri is a senior lecturer attached to the Department of Estate Management and Valuation in University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, and a PhD holder from the School of Housing, Building and Planning in University of Saints, Malaysia. He also earns his BSc Estate Management and Valuation Special Degree from the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura with a first class honors, followed by an MBA from Postgraduate Institutes of Management and an MSc in Real Estate and Valuation from the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. He is also a postgraduate diploma holder of the Chartered Institute of Marketing. By profession, he is a chartered valuation surveyor and a member of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, United Kingdom, and also a member of Institute of Valuers of Sri Lanka. He has research interests in corporate real estate and business practice, and teaching in the areas of valuation, real estate marketing, corporate real estate, and so on. So Dr. Kulathanthri has published many articles on corporate real estate marketing, property valuation, and geographic information systems for real estate in national and international conferences and journals. So welcome on stage, Dr. Prathap Kulathanthri, for your presentation.
Thank you for nice introduction. So welcome to all of you. Good evening, people who join online and also on premises. It is my duty to discuss with the one of the important area on valuation and architecture. So the proposed title is the architecture, the invisible hand that drives the market value of the property. So basically in my discussion, I would like to focus on how architecture contribute to value of the property. So the main idea is that how to architecture support to increase value of the property. So moving forward, so this is my outline. First I would like to discuss what is value. Maybe some of the people who might not in the valuation profession, they might have a very slight idea on what is value, the layman idea. So then I would like to move into the value generators, and finally architecture and the market value. So moving into the value, so everyone know the term value. It's a general term, but when it comes to the value, the term, the true meaning cannot exactly noted without having the describing word. So value means it's a different meaning for different people based on the with the addition of the describing word. Now for example, we have the term called existing use value. We may have another term called the potential use value, and the value to owner, and also market value, etc. Main focus is market value. The people talk about what is the value of the property, the intrinsic idea or the hidden idea is the market value. But there are other terms as well as when we describe the market value, people sometimes focus on existing use value without knowing the true meaning. Sometimes they focus on potential use value and so on and so forth. So to minimize to better clarification on our discussion, I would like to first explain what is value and with the describing word. Then it's helped me to go through this discussion to identify how architecture can contribute to increase the market value. The term existing use value, we generally use it as EVU, EUV, refers to what land is worth in its current form. When it comes to the current form or the current use, what is the value? In other words, the price land or property can be sold on an open market with the assumption that it will only be used for the existing use for the foreseeable future. The meaning, there are situations when you go to the market, sometimes people say that the land is available with the old house, we are not charging the price for the house, old house, just you need to pay the value for the land. That means the existing use value or the existing use of the house is ignored, and the developer or the seller try to sell the land with a building for another different use, which might be a potential use, not for the existing use. So there won't be a the existing house might be demolished and the developer go for a new development. So that's not the existing use value. So existing use value means the person who buy the property with the idea that the same property will be used for foreseeable future period. So in such a situation, we might, if a price offer for the land and the property building, that is the value for existing use. Generally, modern house with the land with a modern house might be the market value of the land with a modern house might be equal with the existing use value. I think that you got the idea. So existing use value is a value for foreseeable future. But there are other situations, as I explained, the potential use value also might be there. So as I explained previously, the old house is there, a single story house is there, might be located in the middle of the city center. The commercial use value of the property is very high, and because of the residential use, the developer need to change the use of the property from residential to the commercial, and they might go for a potential use value. The potential use value is referred to land worth its potential development form. The price land or property can be sold for an open market with the assumption that it will develop for some other use in future. So that's how the price comes for the potential user. Sometimes the developer or the seller may ask that, okay, I have this property, so I will sell it to you. I'm not, you can go for a potential development. But on the other hand, when it comes to the potential value, you need to fulfill three requirements. One is this potential development have a clearance with particular planning regime. For example, if the developer plan to have a high-rise building on this particular land, the planning regime or the zoning principle or the regulation, planning and building regulations might have a clear green light to develop for that kind of development. If you don't have that clearance, the potential use value you can't earn. I'll give a typical example. The paddy field, which is very much close to the city center. Sometimes people might think that, okay, I can purchase this paddy field and develop this as a commercial use, which is front into the main road where abundant paddy field. But potential use value is very much zero. That is because you can't clear that land and go for a potential development. That is because Sri Lankan law not allowed, the regulation not allowed for the development of paddy field unless unless you get the clearance from Agrarian Service Commissioner. So even though it's located in the city center, you can't reach for the highest value, and you have to go for the agricultural value, which is very much lower than to the commercial developed value. So the first thing is that the developer have to think about whether the planning clearance is there. And also, sometimes the concept might be there, 25 stories or 75 stories high-rise building, and you can earn this much of income from that. But within the economic circumstances of the country and the financial circumstances, you have to think about whether this potential development might be viable in a foreseeable future. Sometimes you are not in a position to earn or generate the expected income. If so, you are not in a position to reach that potential value. And finally, the physical feasibility also required. That is because without having the physically feasible project, you can't do the construction. If so, the potential use value cannot be entertained. So, as I explained, the potential use value will be available for property and only situation where these three principles should be reached. Once these three principles reach or the criteria reach, so you can go for a potential use value. So, sometimes even the property is there, people might say that okay, you can go for this kind of a development, something like that. Because of the certain planning clearances or the planning restrictions especially, you are not in a position to go for potential use value. So, then the value might be again come back to the existing use value, where you have to use it for the foreseeable future, especially agricultural properties. And now the term that I want to discuss with you in here before moving to my main idea, the market value. The market value means where the property will be transferred with the potential buyer with an arm's length transaction. Arm's length transaction means there's no any friendly discussions. That means non friendly discussions, there's no any intention of reduce the price of the property, where you sell the property to at the highest value. Now, when it comes to the value generators, I'll like to discuss this diagram. Now, when the time is passed, the current use value gradually reduce. That is the main natural scenario. You construct a house in maybe 1980 with a 1200 square foot building. The building naturally gradually depreciated. The value of the current use or the existing use gradually decrease. That is the normal theoretical discussion. On the other hand, what happened? The land value, the same land plot within that area gradually increases. So, think about the property located in Kalpiti Junction, where the typical residential property built in 1970s or 1980s. Now, this single story house, the income generation capacity of this single story residential property is very much low, but you can develop this land for a commercial use with a 25 or 20 story building. So, you can earn more from that. So, what happened at that point T, you have to demolish or you have to go for a new use. If you go for a new use or introduce a new use for this existing property, you can generate more from that property. If not, what you're doing is you try to reduce the potential value of the property. Now, where in this kind of scenario, architect can involve. So, I develop my argument is that okay, the existing use value is the point where you need to demolish the existing building and go for a new development. But if you don't have money or if you don't have a financial capacity to do that, architect even in this situation can play a big role. He can introduce certain development for the existing property, and through that he can minimize the time overrun of the property, where he can increase the time value of the money. So, maybe additional component might be introduced to the existing property and he can support for the change of use. For example, most of the residential properties along the Gaul Road has been converted to the commercial premises with the support of architect. So, the architect might have a big role in here. So, he can come and think about the requirement of the user, and based on the requirement of the user as well as the planning regime controlling the facilities, he might support to the user, okay, this is the way that you need to modify this property, and you can gradually entertain a certain amount of additional income by converting the existing use value to the new use, and maybe you can delay the redevelopment point of the property. Maybe property might be need to demolish next year, but with the support of architect, you can go for another additional 10 years. You can delay the demolition point. So that might be one of the scenario where if you are financially somewhat difficult situation, okay, you can earn additional income through this kind of mechanism. I'll come to the operationalization of this act at the end of the session. So, so this is how architect can support you in increase the market value of the property. One is a design flexibility and adaptability. So, the market value, one end is a income. We generally calculate the market value of the property based on the income generation capacity of the property. If the property generates higher income, the market value of the property goes up. That's why most of the city center built properties might have a higher value. That is because city center have the commercial gain capacity. Because of that, market value is very high. And that's why the residential properties in the rural area, you don't have a much value, because the earning capacity, the rental income generation capacity of the residential property in the rural area very much low. So you can't think about the same kind of a construction, same kind of a design where you construct in the rural area and the urban area. Even though the cost of construction is equal, you are not in a position to generate the same income in the rural and the urban areas. Two different values will be reached. So then the property value from our end, as a valuer's perspective, what we do is we will value the property based on the income generation capacity of the property. Even though the cost of construction is equal, two values might be placed for the same kind of design based on the income generation capacity. Now what happened? Architect come and introduce a new format how to make the positive support to the market value. So one end, architect come and introduce the mechanism. These are the ways you can generate the additional income from the property. So he can come up with a innovative solution and introduce this is way that you can generate higher income from the same property. And also, other hand, he can come and introduce the ways and means of reduce the cost of maintenance. If you come and introduce the ways and means of reduce your cost of maintenance, again your net income goes up. Sometimes even you made the higher gross income, but your electricity charges, your ventilation charges and so on and so forth, if it is very high, ultimately your net income is very much low, even though you earn a high income. So what we can do is, architect can do, he can think about how we can reduce the cost of operation of the same property, how we can increase the revenue of the property. So my argument is that, so let architect decide, this is how we can generate income, how we can minimize cost of operation. So one is increase revenue generation capacity of the building. So increase revenue support to maximize the net income of the subject property. Now I noticed that even my certain studies, there are a lot of spaces in the building where you are not in a position to let it in the open market. So think about the commercial property. In a certain commercial properties, certain spaces are not utilized for income generation capacity generation. So architect come and introduce, this is a way that you can introduce the income generation of these spaces. He can provide alternative ideas. I'll discuss in detail. And reduce outgoings of the property means recurrent cost on maintenance, repairs, payment of rates and management of building. He can introduce innovative ideas. And finally, cost of construction also, building also can use to reduce the increase the market value. Cost, when it comes to the cost side, architect can think about the site consideration, building size and shape, building height, material spec. So if you consult a good architect, he might focus on site consideration, how the site is there and how we can have the maximum footprint from the site. If you can get the floor area ratio at the highest level, your income generation capacity goes up. And the building size and shape, sometimes if there is any mathematical, people who have the mathematical background, they know, they might have idea the perimeter calculation. Even the if you have the square shape design and the circular shape design, even though the size of the house is or the building is equal, a perimeter might have differences. Cost calculation is there. So architect can come up with an innovative idea. Okay, this is how we can minimize the perimeter calculation. And the building height also badly affect to the total overall cost of the building and material spec. He can introduce a good material to minimize the cost of building. And the revenue side, this is the most important way, where the architect can introduce a designing flexibility, especially architecture, society and function, and the structure, technology and construction. So designing flexibility means he can introduce plug-in to the existing building. Now building is there, additional components can be introduced to increase the revenue generation capacity of the building. Imagine a twin house is there. If the twin, this house, the part of the house can be converted to a commercial premises where the owner can earn additional generation, additional income from the commercial activities. But architect come and need to introduce this is a way that you need to make the plug-in to the existing building. So this plug-in help you to earn additional income. Another one is sum and split. Sum and split means the big house might be there, the larger building is there. This larger building can be effectively divided into 2 units. Sometimes you have a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom house, maybe you have you need to give it to your 2 kids, but you don't know how to manage this property in a effective way. So architect come and think about, give a solution how split this property in effective manner to minimizing the structural damage to the entire property. Maybe with the help of the condominium property law in Sri Lanka, you can divide the property into 2 units easily and registered as a 2 condominium units. So that help you to use the extra large space for additional income generation capacity. And shared room space, the space architect can come and explain and introduce the idea how space can be used to generate the additional income. And another one is a movable hall. These movable walls means basically these are very much okay with the lecture theatres, universities, education centers. The movable walls can be introduced to minimize the additional cost on electricity ventilation. And the effective design of movable hall at the designing stage is very much important to minimize the damage to the structural damage to the property. So design flexibility should be there with the architect, and he can support to generate the income. And the folding is final one. Folding is also where the highest level of designing principle, where architect can come and introduce the folding capacity, but it's not very much popular in Sri Lanka. And the cost side, the structure, technology and construction, he can introduce dry construction system, structural optimization, frames and grids to minimize the overall cost of the building. And the management stage, the main 7 factors are there, but I would like to discuss main 6 factors: reduce cost, flexibility, productivity, user satisfaction, facilitate interaction and promote the brand. These are very much specific with the commercial properties. For example, if you want to promote your brand, you can at the very beginning you can discuss with the architect, and this is my brand, this is my brand idea. So my brand need to represent with this building. So sometimes he might come with the innovative idea to make your brand visible over the building. It might be a color shades, it might be a logo design, so on and so forth. Even if you go to certain banks in Sri Lanka, interior designing might be very much related with the brand colors. So you feel the brand when you enter to the premises, and facilitate interaction is very much important to increase the value of the property, especially for the commercial building where knowledge workers are there. You know the who are the knowledge workers. So knowledge workers are the people who discuss everything here and there when they even moving here and there. So if you consult an architect, okay, I need to have a facilitate interaction of these people. So he can design lobbies, walkways, and all these areas within the building to facilitate the interaction. That is very much important for knowledge work organization, especially think about the software developing company. So the employees might hanging here and there, and when you hanging here and there, a certain discussion might happen, informal discussion happen. Sometimes you might come up with an innovative idea in that kind of discussion. So if you can facilitate interaction via the designing facility, the value of the building is very much high. That's why even if you go to the Google head office, the Google head office has been designed in such a way to facilitate interaction. You don't have a cubicle, isolated cubicle for each and every employee. So design factor is very important to increase the value of the property. Sometimes the cost of construction is very much equal, innovative design and the typical design, but if you facilitate the interaction, that is generate higher revenue even through employee ideas. This is very much important for the software companies, especially then the hotels, hotel even not for the employees. Sometimes guests, if they want to have interactions, you need to think about that factor when you are designing the building. That generates the higher income to the property. And I would like to again highlight the productivity factor. Especially if you have the linear process system in a manufacturing plant, the architect can come and discuss the matter with the production manager, how this plant is designed. And the productivity will increase with the designing factor. Especially how you locate your kitchen, how you locate your lobby area, how the loading base has been designed. All these are matters to increase the productivity. Sometimes if you purchase the old building and try to make your plant there, the productivity might reduce because of the absence of these facilities. So that has to be very much focused when you are working in a commercial premises. Especially the architect can come and introduce, this is how you can increase your overall productivity. So that means design matter on productivity of the organization. So for example, I had one study in the 5-star hotel in Sri Lanka, and how they locate their back-end staff, and how they locate their restaurant, how they locate their lobby area is very much important to increase the productivity of their employees. Because if the especially stewards and the employees have to walk miles in a day, they have to they don't have one particular location to work. They have to go here and there to make the inquiry, satisfy the inquiries of the guests. So if the building is not designed in such a way to convenient way to the users, especially the employees, then the employee productivity goes down. So that is very much important. That is because at the end of the day, employee productivity means the increase the revenue generation capacity of the building, the business. So that very much important. And the flexibility is also very much important in the management stage. Again, I'll come with the example with hotel industry. After Easter attack and this COVID situation, what happened? The hotel have to convert certain facilities to the earn additional money because of the tourists are no more there. So, if the building is not flexible enough to convert the different use, you can't use the property to generate other income. So, that has to be think about when you are working for a building. So, these are the main areas that I want to discuss. So, in summary, what I need to explain, the architect can come with the innovative ideas to minimize the cost component of the building and the revenue generation capacity of the building. If you increase the revenue generation capacity of the building, or other way, if you reduce the cost component of the building, ultimately the market value of the property is high. That is because market value is the net income into the present value of the future income. So, we are calculating the present value of the future income. So, future income is the net income. So, one way increase revenue means you increase the gross income of the property. If you make the contribution to reduce the cost means you reduce the cost component, that means net income again goes up. So, ultimately the market value is very high. So, even though you have the same cost of construction with a typical building where the architect supported building, the value of the architect supported building is very high. That is because he know how to handle the property. So, that's end of my presentation. Do you have any question I can answer? There's one question, how the life cycle cost, how it's affect to value. The life cycle, when it comes to the life cycle cost, it's affect to the value based on the depreciation level. So, what we do is, we have three valuation approaches. One is income based approach, other one is cost based approach. Now, your one is I can use in the income based or the cost based approach. When it comes to the cost based approach, what we do is we deduct depreciation based on the condition of the building. If the building has the higher life cycle cost, then even though the building is very much new, the depreciation level is very high. So, the value of the building is very low, the property. On the other hand, when it comes to the income method, we call it as outgoings, rates, repairs, insurance and management. So, the repair cost, insurance cost and all these are very high with the high life cycle cost. So, then the value of the building might very much low.
What about the movable furniture and not the fixed ones, but the moving elements of the building, furniture especially?
Movable things. So, in a valuation perspective, when you work as a valuation for the property value, we not consider the movable items. We consider only the fixtures. The fixtures means whatever the things attached to the building permanently. If the something is removable or movable, we not consider it for the final value. So, in that sense, for example, if a air condition is fixed, so we consider it as we consider that. But certain furniture and fittings, we are not considered for final value. Okay, I think that since there's no more questions, we can wind up the session. Before winding up, I would like to thank Chairman and Council of the SLIA and also Organizing Committee of the Architect 2022 for inviting me for this valuable opportunity. Thank you again.